Franciosi, tell me first, where were you born and raised?
Groton, Connecticut. I was born there. In fact, I live on the same street I was born on.
And obviously you served in World War II. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
Yes, I was drafted. I worked at a shipyard building submarines in Groton, Connecticut, and I got 6 deferments, and then it came that they needed more people, so they drafted us. And I went in April 1944. And in October of 1944, I was in combat. Oh, I went to Camp Blandon, Florida for 17 weeks and took our basic training there, and then we went to Fort Meade, and then from Fort Meade they put us on the Queen Mary, and we sailed to Europe, and just Queen Mary alone. There was 20,000 troops aboard with not counting crew and officers. It's a big ship. And then we landed in England, and I forgot how many days. We stayed there a couple of days, and then they put us on boats and took us across the channel, and we landed, I don't know just where in France, but we landed in France.
What was your unit?
36 Infantry. Well, at that time, I was just a recruit. I didn't have a unit that I know of. I can't remember anyway.
Okay. Replacement?
Huh?
You were a replacement?
I was a replacement, yes.
Okay.
Regiment was the 131st Regiment, 3rd Battalion, the 36th Division. I was a PFC, but I could have made sergeant, but I refused it because I didn't want to lead anybody in combat. And after that, I was sorry I did it.
And where did you go in France?
Where did we go in France? We landed in the Omaha Beach, and we had packs. Oh my God, they were that big and about that big, and we had to walk up that big hill. And when we got on top of that hill, the first thing I seen was all white crosses. And I said, uh-oh, I guess this is it. Thank God I'm still here. Then they kept us at a couple of places before they put us on trucks, and they transferred us to France or someplace to, I don't even know the town they took us to. And they took us to this little town. We got out, and we was in this house with cement floors, and we were all just sitting around, at night. And next day, these trucks pulled in, and all these guys come out and walking in, and I'm looking at them. They're all young kids. Well, young kids. I wasn't an old man myself. And I'm looking at them, I said, oh boy, these are some tough-looking guys. And that was the outfit that I was put into. L Company, 131st Division, 3rd Battalion, L Company. And I was in there, and all the guys were sitting around, and then the sergeants come in, and they start picking guys for their squads, or their platoons. And they picked me, and I went to this platoon and everything, and then the sergeant says to me, you're a BAR man. I said, what do you mean I'm a BAR man? He says, you're the BAR man. And I looked around and I see all these big guys. I says, and me, I'm the smallest guy here. You're the BAR man, period. Couldn't say no more. So I was the BAR man. They give me the gun, I think it was bigger than me. And we sat there for a day or two, I guess. I don't really remember how long we was there. So then they loaded us on trucks, and they took us up into the Vosges Mountains. That's where we started.
And did you get into combat?
Yeah, we got into different things, And the only time used to bother me when they come around and say, check ammunition. And then they give you 2 bandoliers, and strap them across your waist, and then you go wherever you're going, you know.
How long were you in combat?
From October till the war ended in May. And when we went all through Alsace-Lorraine, we went all the way through, up through the Siegfried Line, and we ended up in the Austrian Alps where the war ended. And that was it.
Did you have much combat with the German, or did you have much contact with German civilians?
Yeah, all the time. We used to stay in, they used to put us in houses sometimes. We, occupy a home, but the Germans would move out and we'd take the houses, and stay there overnight or 2 or 3 days, whatever it took, And that's how they did it.
Were you ever wounded?
No. There was 45 of us that were replacements when I went in. There was me and a buddy of mine we took basic training together, Blazy Blazona, and a guy named by LaRue. And we used to call him Pop. He was 38 years old. And him, Blazy, and myself never got wounded, but Blazy went back to the hospital for a week because he had trench feet. But LaRue and myself, we were lucky. We never got wounded. I had a piece of shrapnel hit me in the arm one day. It was still hot, but not hot enough to wound me, So.
Did the men in your division look down on the replacements?
No. They treat us all alike. They didn't figure because we were replacements wasn't any good. Everybody, you were buddies then. Everybody was for everybody, I didn't have anybody discriminated against me. No, not that I know of. Well, there's a lot of things that sometimes you think about them now, it's funny, but at the time it wasn't. I remember I was in a foxhole with a guy named, oh God, I know his name good, now I can't think of it. Well, anyway, he had a rifle grenade that you put on the end of your rifle, and you can't shoot it from the hip. You got to put it in the ground like that and fire it. And we're in the foxhole, and a barrage come in of shells. So when a barrage comes in, you hit the ground, and he lands on top of me, because them holes ain't that big above me from here to where you are, and about that wide. And the the shells are going all over the place. Then it stops. And I get up and I sat down and I looked at his rifle. And he had the grenade in his rifle, and the fin on his grenade was bent. And I said to him, Serpiglio, that's what was his name. I says, boy, it's a good thing you had the pin in that grenade. I said, or we wouldn't be here. He said, I just put it in. It was out, but we was lucky it didn't hit the front of the grenade. If it did, once that thing lands, it's, you're done. But that's one of the things that happened, There was a lot of other ones, but, well, I can tell you one that's funny. We was in this building, and I had a can of beans, I put them on the stove, and we're looking out, the stove is here, and I'm looking out the window, and down below they must have had 3,000 German prisoners marching along the road. And for about 15 minutes, we kept saying, boy, this is good. Then all of a sudden, there was a big explosion. And I turned around, I got all splattered with, and I said, holy mackerel, I'm wounded. I went like that, and my beans exploded on the stove, and it splattered me with beans. That was the funny part. But there was a lot of other things. I can't really remember everything.
Where were you when the war ended in Europe?
I was in the Austrian Alps. And it was funny. We was in the Austrian Alps, and we was in this field. And we looked at each other, everybody on a platoon looked at each other. We said, Jesus, the captain must be going nuts. You get one aerial burst in them trees, and we're all dead. We said, what the hell is he putting us here in a field like this? And then he come around, the captain come around, he says, I got news for you. It's 3 o'clock this afternoon, the war is over. And I said to my buddy next to me, I said, well, I guess this is when I'm going to get it. He said, what are you, nuts? I said, hey, you never know. But thank God I didn't get it. And that was it. That was the end of the war. And then we went to a little town that was called Blaberns in Germany. And they took me off. I had a buddy that was a Jeep driver. And he says to me, Lou, I'm going to make you a Jeep driver. I said, okay, I'd love to be a Jeep driver. So he gave me the job because he was going home. He had enough points to come home. And I didn't have enough points to come home. At that time, you had to have points to get home because I wasn't in long enough. Those guys were in 3 or 4 years, you know. So he named the Jeep low points on the front. And I got to be Jeep driver, and it was a good job. I used to take the captain around every Sunday or Saturday to all the towns to see the burgomasters. Those were the mayors of all the towns. And we used to stop there, and it was nice. It was a good job. And I enjoyed that. And I guess that's what about. Then after that, we stayed there long, and they started shipping us out to different outfits, and they shipped me to the 1st Armored Division. And my buddy that was with me was Jesse Moran. He says to me, you know, my brother is in one of these 1st Armored Divisions, and I'll be a son of a gun if we didn't land up in a company his brother was in. It was pretty neat. And I stayed in the 1st Armored. They took us to a little town about 10 miles outside of Mannheim, Germany. And that's where we stayed until I got ready to get shipped out and come home. And my job was being a guard at the Red Cross, in the front of the Red Cross with a 45 on my hip, you know. And we just guarded there, make sure nobody come in. And then they come around and says, we got some courses in school. Would you like to go to school? I says, yeah. I says, what's the courses? They says, welding. I says, well, I'm a burner. I used to work on subs and cut steel with a torch. So they said, acetylene welding. I said, I'll take it because I acetylene weld with a torch to burn, so I might as well learn how to weld. So I went to school for 17 weeks in Mannheim. And a German was teaching me how to acetylene weld, you know. And that's about the time Patton got killed. And one of our trucks, well, I guess he was in charge of the 1st Armored Division. I don't know. One of our trucks, he was going over a bridge, and one of our 6 spies, they had an accident there, but they didn't say he got killed by a truck, but he did, according to us guys, because we was there. So then they had him on a caisson, and they were marching him down the street. And I was up in the Red Cross having coffee, and all the company I was with was down there and on the sidewalks at Guns at Arms as he was going by. And I'm up in the Red Cross, and I'm saying to myself, good. He said he didn't care if it took 2 6-bys full of dog tags. He was going to get to Berlin first. You realize how many dead GIs? A dog tag is only that big. A 6-by is 4 by 6. That's a lot of dead GIs. And after that, I never had no respect for the man. And that was it.
When did you go back to the U.S.?
I come back in June of 46 on a George Washington. And that was the best job I ever had. They give me a job with the crew, taking care of different things on the crew, and I got to eat with the crew. I got a menu every day, and the poor GIs were up there getting everything else. And I had a buddy of mine from my hometown. Every day he used to come around. Well, Lou, what we got to eat today? And I used to bring him something every day. I was discharged in June in Fort Dix, but I can't remember the date.
And what did you do after the war?
What did I do? Oh, I went back to my old job at the submarine, at building EB, electric boat, building submarines. I got my job back because they said they would give it back to you after you come back. And I stayed there for 6 months, and then they laid us off, and then about 6 months later, they called us back in. And I worked there for 40 years, till I retired in 1988. And that's about it.
As you look back on your service, what makes you most proud?
What? Say that again?
What makes you most proud about your service?
What makes me most proud? Well, I think about serving in the Army. I wanted to get in the Navy, and they said, where'd you work? I said, in a shipyard. Army. So I got the Army. And I'm glad I did. I wish I stayed in 20 years. But when you're young like that, you want to get home, and you don't think about it. Then after I got home, and it's too late then, I could have joined National, which I should have, but I didn't. But that's the way it goes. Now I wish I stayed in. Oh, God.
Children today, what would you like them to know about your generation?
They don't make us like anymore. No, this generation ain't like it was when I was a kid. It was a lot different. I don't know, it seems like, I don't know, today it seems like kids don't have any respect for anything. I mean, that's my feeling. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's just because I'm old. I don't know.
How should we remember the war?
You got to remember that it saved all you guys. It sure helped you, I think. Maybe I'm wrong.
I agree.
You agree? Well, thanks for agreeing with me. Oh, good. You know, after you're on the front line so long, you get a 72-hour pass, and you go to a rest camp for three days. So I went to a town, Bains-les-Bains, France. So you always carried your toothbrush in your pocket. So I said, well, geez, I ain't had my teeth cleaned in 6 months. So I went to the dentist. I said, I'd like to get my teeth cleaned. So he went over to, he says, oh, you got one's got to come out. I says, no, I don't have one that's got to come out. Nothing wrong with my teeth. He says, yeah, that one's got to come out. I said, it don't have to come out. I don't have a toothache. All I want is my teeth cleaned. He says, no, it's got to come out. I said, no, it don't. He just put the thing in there and pulled it. I pulled my fist back, and I was going to belt him. I was so mad I would have, and if I did, I knew I would have got court-martialed. So I didn't. And to this day, I got all my teeth, but that one tooth. Maybe I shouldn't even be telling you this story, but it just bothered the hell out of me.
Tell us about sleeping in the schoolhouse.
Oh. Well, it was in February, and it was cold out, and we was walking at night, and we came to these puddles, you know, that you walk in the water, and the water's there, and the next thing you know, it's there, and the next thing you know, it's there, and it got up to here. And then the water starts seeking through, and it gets you, you know. And here it is in the middle of the night, and we're walking. Then I get from here till about the camera there from shore, and I hit ice. And my feet are going like that, and I'm scrubbing my feet, but I ain't getting any place. So my buddy Jack Davis, he was 6-foot guy, my best friend. I said, Jack, I can't walk. I'm slipping all over the place. So he takes his rifle and he slings it back like that. He said, here, grab it. So I grabbed his rifle from where I was, and he pulled me in shore, and there was 6 guys in back of me holding on to me. And he pulled us all in because it was so slippery we couldn't walk. So then from there, we was walking. We got out of there all right, and we was walking into this town. And we came to this schoolhouse. So we all went in the schoolhouse and looked for a place to lay down and go to sleep. So me and a couple other guys, we went under the stage, you know. So we crawled under the stage. We had one blanket, and that was all welt, but we wrapped up anyway and went. We fell asleep regardless of the water and everything else. So the next morning I woke up. This buddy of mine, Blazy, he was in the 4th platoon with the mortars, and he came looking for me. So finally I come out from under the stage, and he's coming in the room, and he said, where the hell was you? I said, I went under the stage and went to sleep. He said, you hear the shell hit the school last night? I said, Blazy, are you nuts? If a shell hit the school last night, I would have heard it. He says, what? You didn't hear the shell hit the school? I said, no, Blazy, I didn't. He says, come with me. So he took me through the park of the school. We went there, and the whole side of the school was out. When a shell hit it, he says, and you didn't hear that? I said, no, I didn't hear it, Blazy. He says, holy Christ, you wasn't asleep, you was dead. So when he come down and see me, after the war, he come down and see me and my wife, and he says to my wife, you know, he told my wife about it, and she says, yeah, I know how he sleeps. She says, he fell asleep dancing with me on a dance floor one night. Yeah, I could sleep once, but no more. I was in the foxhole, and I was in there with a friend. You know, every once in a while you change foxholes. You change guys that went in the foxhole with you. And I was in the foxhole with this, and he was from Virginia. Bolin, his name was. And we was in the foxhole one night, and I was still a BAR man, and every time they'd put me with the heavy-duty machine guns on the side of the heavy-duty machine guns, you know, because I had a small arm BAR to guard the machine gun guys. And I'm laying, we have turns sleeping as long as you stay awake as long as you can. Then you go to sleep, and the other guy stays. And I just lay down, and he took over. I just laid down. I just started to sleep, and I heard, halt, who goes there? Didn't hear no more. Halt, who goes there? Didn't hear no more. He picks up the BAR, and he pulls the bolt back, pulled the trigger, and it didn't go off. He did it twice, and it didn't shoot. Next thing I know, I heard bang. He picked up a hand grenade and threw a hand grenade. And then I'm laying there, and I keep hearing, help, GI. I said, Bolin, you hearing somebody holler, help, GI? GI? He said, no, Lou, I don't hear nobody. He said, there was a German coming up there, and I threw that hand grenade. I said, why would a guy be hollering, help, GI? He says, I don't know. Then all of a sudden, the platoon sergeant come, Louie, don't shoot, it's me, Martinez. I says, Martinez, I ain't shooting anybody, Bolin, doing all the shooting. So he says, you friend just got wounded, Fred. So I walked back to the CP with him, and Fred's there moaning. I said, Fred, it wasn't me. And he wouldn't answer me, so I kept saying it, but he wouldn't answer me. So I don't know what happened to him, but his name was Fred Quisler. And I says to Bolin, boy, when he comes back, and Bolin says, if he comes back, I'm leaving. I said, not as if I can help it, you ain't leaving. You're going to stay here and face him. But he never come back while we was there. And the funny part of it is, I worked at EB, and they sent us to Idaho to work. And I never looked in my 36th Division book of people where they were from, you know. A lot of them I did. I had all my friends checked in the book. So when I came home one day and I picked up my book one day, I said, I'm going through the book around. And I found Fred's name, and he was from Caddo, Idaho. And I was in Idaho Falls. And I said, my God, I wish I had known that. I would have went to see if he was there, you know. That was in 1962. And to this day, I regret it. I never did it. And he might have still been alive. I don't know. But that's the end of the story. I hope you got something out of it.
That was excellent. Yeah, we appreciate you sharing with us.
Okay.